Hey, I'm Mary Tabbitt, producer of Growing Green, and I've got our host here, Bruce Crawford. And Bruce, so nice to see you again.
It's a pleasure to be here again, as always. A beautiful day he brought with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was such an exciting place that we went to the last time in Hyonis Gardening. And so let's recap on that. Tell us a little bit about what people are going to see.
So with Hyonis, of course, we were focusing upon growing annuals and looking forward to the summer. Today we're looking at trees, and I think a lot of people really underestimate trees, the value of trees, what they do for us, how they make us live longer, how they actually, because everyone's looking at the environment right now. So what can we do that's going to improve the environment? If you plant one oak tree, you will feed over 550 insects. Now that sounds odd, but the birds eat those 550 insects. So you need the oak tree to actually create that whole assemblage of diet and the animals that are around us. So trees are vital to our sustainability and our life going forward. So that's what we're sort of looking at. You know, why would you want a river birch? I mean, look at the bark on this. This is bark. I mean, this is awesome. So, but you know, sometimes you don't always need bark. You want something else. So that's what we'll be looking at today. So today we're with Margaret Walcock, and she is the executive director of Duke Farms. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. I've been here a number of times, but to meet the new executive director, I think is, to me, just a thrill.
Well, thank you. It's great to welcome you today on this beautiful day.
Very beautiful day. And how long have you been at your job now?
I have been here a total of 6 months.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So, and you're enjoying it?
I am. I mean, what's not to love, right? Great place to work.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And so for those that are listening who are not familiar yet with Duke Farms, perhaps you could give a little background about, touch on its history, but really what's its mission and its core focus for the future?
Yeah, sure. So Duke Farms is 2,700 acres of farmland, forest land, wetlands in the Raritan River watershed in Hillsborough, New Jersey. This is the former estate of Doris Duke, and for the past decade or so, the property has been transformed from being a private estate to being a place where the public can connect with nature. And our mission is to be model stewards of the land, and also to be a place of inspiration for people to become better stewards of the environment themselves.
That's very cool, very cool. Now we were talking a little bit earlier, and so you were mentioning that you have some wetlands mitigation work that you're doing, and
yes,
some other, they sound like really big words, but they're really fairly basic concepts. I thought maybe you could
sure. So there's about 500 acres of Duke Farms that is in active restoration right now. These are mostly wetlands and riparian corridor areas. That's areas within the river corridor itself that through years of agricultural use were really disturbed sites. And so by putting them in restoration through these programs with the federal government, what that means is that we are actively managing them to repair and restore the soils so that they become functioning ecological wetland systems again.
And why are those soils so important? A little bit about carbon and the basics of what, because soils are a dry topic to a lot of people.
Yes.
But they're really very, very active. So maybe you want to touch us a little bit on the carbon.
Well, soils should not be a dry topic to your audience, Bruce, because they are really the foundation for supporting a healthy and functioning ecosystem. Certainly healthy trees and healthy agricultural products and healthy landscaping products. And so right now we are, by being good stewards of the land, it means we're really restoring the natural conditions of this property to really function at optimum level to support native flora and fauna here. That was the mission that Doris Duke directed us with upon her death, when she left this property to be taken care of in trust, and really to protect, primarily to protect wildlife, native flora and fauna, and also to be a place where people can come and learn about what that looks like in action and what a healthy ecosystem looks like.
Sure, sure. And the focus for this episode is really about trees. And we're surrounded by a lot of old trees and some younger plantings here. And I know you're putting a lot of thought into trees. So maybe you could just touch briefly on some of the trees that you have, the parking lot with its ecological system there that's been developed?
Yeah, so all of the trees that we intentionally plant as part of our designed landscapes, those are in the areas that are more where the built environment is, right, and where the park is, where the buildings are. Those are all native species, and the idea is in our parking lot, for example, our parking lot is designed using what's called green infrastructure, so that the stormwater from the parking lot drains into these natural retention basins that are using native plants and trees to filter the water before it then flows underground and makes its way to the Raritan River. So the idea is, how can you turn a parking lot into something that's actually delivering clean water instead of polluted water? And that's where natural systems can really help mitigate the impact of these built environments.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. I know it's you're very busy and you have a tough schedule, but I think everybody would like to know a little bit of the background of this place, and the fact that they come out here and enjoy it. Right now it'll open up to the public on weekends. Which day now?
We're opening up on Saturdays on after April 1st.
Okay.
You will need a free reservation pass that you can get on our website. And also check out our website we have lots of programming, educational programmings online, and also we'll be doing some in person here at Duke Farms over the spring and summer season.
That is great to hear.
Great.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Freeze right there. Don't move.
Hey, I'm Mary, and I'm here with Nora. Nora, your last name?
DiChiara.
And Nora, what do you do here on Duke's Estates?
I'm the Director of Programs and Strategic Planning, so I handle everything from education to our volunteer program, to planning of projects, communications and media, and a little bit of everything else.
A little bit of everything,
Yes.
right? Now, we're talking about education. Do students actually come here to this location?
Yes, in a non-pandemic year, we'd usually get several thousand students who come here from within a 50-mile radius. Private schools, public schools, homeschoolers, you name it. We provide lesson plans for teachers, so we take a lot of the guesswork out of giving an educational program, provide the curriculum standards, and provide the locations throughout Duke Farms, and all they have to do is come up with busing, and it's free for students. So we get a lot of students who take advantage of that.
This is amazing. Do you know when this location was built, the Duke's Estate?
So Duke Farms was built at the turn of the century, and throughout the years it's gone through various changes through administrations, and it's been open to the public through various ways, but really open to the public since 2012.
Wow. Actually, I grew up in this area, and we came to the flower gardens when they were when they were here, and I think we had gotten right at the very end. And so you've done so many wonderful things since Miss Duke. She donated all this to the public, which is amazing.
Yeah, we are a private foundation, so we are private, but we do allow for visitors to come throughout the property, and we really do see it as a way of sharing this amazing place with the visitors and hoping that they come here and they learn something about stewardship, about trees, about nature, and somehow it provides them some sort of information to be informed stewards, making some sort of change in their lives.
It's amazing. We were talking before too about the students coming in with the teachers, and there isn't a building. It's actually on the different sites of the estate.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is get kids outside. That's what we actually want all of our visitors to get outside, to come here, be oriented, usually in our orientation center when it's open, not during COVID, and really get out throughout the property and explore. We have almost 20 miles of roadway that's open for bikers, for pedestrians, and really making that connection with nature so that they can go on their journey to be stewards.
And it is so tranquil. I mean, people that have been walking through here have been taking pictures and enjoying the fresh air. So
it's a transformative experience.
How long have you been a part of this?
I have been lucky enough to be a part of this Duke Farms family since 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I asked the right person all the questions. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm with Scott Bremen right now, and Scott is in charge of all the plant material, the nursery, and I know you had a couple of other things that you were working with as well. Would you mind explaining what it is that you're actually focusing on here at Duke Farms?
Sure. So my title here is a land steward, and a big part of what I'm involved in is ecological restoration on the property.
Okay, okay.
So we go into habitats that are either damaged by humans or somehow infiltrated by invasive species, and then we'll go in to these areas, remove these invasive species, and then kind of create a clean slate where we can go in and plug in and rebuild the natural species that should be within that particular ecotype.
Okay, okay. And our focus this month is looking at trees, and I know I got really excited when I got here because I looked over and I was like, oh, look, a nursery! and they're growing pawpaws. Now, pawpaws are one of those trees that I think a lot of people haven't heard about yet, but it's one of our more interesting edible fruits. So would you mind talking a little bit about
Definitely.
the pawpaws?
Sure, yeah. I was ignorant of the pawpaw myself. I grew up down in South Jersey in the pines where they're not really native to that habitat. So not until I came to Duke did I discover it myself, and it's a really unique tree. It's kind of like a mid-level sub-canopy tree. Doesn't get too large. Like the largest champion tree I think is not very tall, maybe 100 feet or so, and probably not even. And this species for us here was kind of the trigger of us thinking about what species what are we losing from this habitat, from this scene that should be here? And pawpaw is definitely one of them. You know, if we go to our native local river sources, there should be these beautiful little pawpaw trees kind of hanging out underneath the subcanopy there. And so that kind of snowballed into us thinking about what other trees or species are missing. And then, you know, due to overabundance of deer, we're losing kind of these lower levels of the forest. So that got us thinking about shrubs and trees in particular. So we are focused on a few different species, in particular 3 different viburnums, witch hazel, and spice bush, which are all kind of gone from the landscape, and those are our focus for right now.
Okay, okay, that's interesting, because again, spice bush is typically not eaten by deer because of that fragrance that it has, so it's interesting that you're actually missing that ingredient in this area.
Yeah, you know, Duke Farms is a very unique property that I'm learning everything more and more every day. It's a very highly manipulated landscape, actually. You know, I think folks come here and they think, you know, this is a very natural scene, but actually a lot of this environment here is very manipulated by man. And J.B. Duke himself came and cleared a lot of property and put in a lot of grass and put in different tree allays and things like that. But since then, it's been over 100 years now, certain areas have grown up and become to look like forests, natural forests, but are in fact kind of just overgrown with invasives and maybe trees that were planted but now kind of look like part of the natural landscape.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, that's important because I think a lot of people, there's an element out there called plant blindness, and so people don't understand one tree from another. They sort of think they all blend together, where, you know, you're looking at it from an ecological standpoint that, you know, this is what we're missing and this is what we need to re-inject into the landscape. So that's great, and I'm happy to see this nursery that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and are you going to ball and burlap this material?
Yeah, I think some of these will be ball and burlapped. We also have a few different techniques that we're doing. I really enjoy these this new pot that we have. It's a root pouch. So instead of the you know, classic plastic container, these are like fibrous materials that let the soil breathe, and they actually air trim the roots. And so we're trying a few different things like that, where we're growing those bags into the ground, and then some of them we're going to transplant just through the whole bag itself, put it directly into the bag. So that's what's kind of cool about this spot too, is we're trying multiple different techniques at once to kind of see what the ultimate best way to do the restoration.
Okay, that's good. So actually, we look forward to coming back and hearing how everything works out. So,
I'd love to have you back.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you for this time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So Margaret, we're standing where the farm market will be in a few weeks, and could you, I mean, I love farm markets, but I think most of the people watching are familiar with farm markets at this point.
Yes.
But maybe you could define a little bit about why farm markets are so important to the mission of Duke Farms, the number of vendors and the variety and so forth that you have here?
Yes, absolutely. So Duke Farms, we are a working farm. And we really feel it's important to, as part of our mission, to emphasize supporting local producers and seasonal eating for a variety of reasons, ultimately to really support more sustainable communities. By shopping and supporting local growers at local farmers markets, you're reducing the number of miles that you're traveling to get your food, which is therefore reducing the amount of carbon-based fuel you're burning. You're also supporting local businesses, and you are eating healthier when you align your diet with what is in season.
So, and I think that's something that a lot of people have sort of forgotten about, because you can go to a grocery store and get anything at any time of year.
Yes.
But we evolved with a very seasonal approach to food.
Yes, and nothing tastes better than summer strawberries.
Oh man, yes,
Right?
Coming up too. I'm looking forward to that.
Up.
So, so how many vendors will you have here roughly?
So our farmers market will open May 2nd, and it happens on Sundays from 10 to 2. We'll have over 30 vendors in this lot right here. All of them either local or regional growers or producers, and a variety of products available from produce to meat, eggs, dairy, as well as some value add products like salsas and jams and those kinds of things.
And to me, one of the fun parts of going to a farm market is actually talking to the vendor.
Absolutely.
You get to ask the question, how is this grown? How is it prepared?
Yes.
And they love to talk to you and tell you all about it.
Yes, know your farmer.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So, well, thank you for bringing us here today.
Well, I hope you come back for the season.
I will. I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Scott, we're standing underneath a magnificent tree. I mean, and it's we're on Sycamore Lane right now, and a lot of the trees are starting to go into decline, I've noticed, and you're starting to replace them as we go. So obviously our focus is on trees, and I love a big tree. This is awesome. So can you tell a little bit about the care that goes into this and how you're starting to manage as you go forward with these older trees?
Surely. So this tree is probably about 100 years old or so.
Okay.
So with that, you're going to start to have some decline after that, of course. We here at Duke Farms contract out a lot of our bigger tree work. We have a crew that comes in and will come in and do a lot of the pruning and the general maintenance that will, allow these trees to live quite a bit longer. But once they do start to decline, we'll take it in chunks, and I believe we did it in 10 to 15 tree increments. I believe last time we did 15 trees installed. And as you can see, we went and got some bigger caliber stuff, so we can it won't be such an age difference that it's like a drastic, visual difference. And then these guys will be cabled up here for, I'd say, probably the next 5 to 7 years or so.
Okay. So maybe explain a little bit about the cabling. Why is it important, and why is it on the tree for such a long period of time? So
when you put the tree, one of the most drastic things you can do for a tree is to rip it out of the ground.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then, as you know, these trees were spaded, so what that means is a giant vehicle comes with 4 giant shovels essentially and scoops the entire tree and its most of the root mass out of the ground. Now, as much as you do unfortunately cut out a lot of that root mass.
Unfortunately, yes.
So when you do put it back into the ground, even if it is a perfect hole and everything, it's still going to take time for the roots to establish and really anchor itself back into the new spot. And in that process, obviously winds and water and other things are going to really affect that tree stability. So what these will do is it holds equal tension on 4 different sides and basically keeps the tree right where it is. And you're going to want to keep them for years to really establish that root system.
Now, the one thing I did notice, and this is an important detail, is a lot of times you see the guide wires really taut and tight, whereas these have a little bit of slack in the line. Why is that important?
That's important because the tree is going to have a little bit of play. Due to those environmental factors, mostly wind, really, and then the growth of the tree as well. You're going to want to have some space for it to actually be able to bend, but not so much where it's going to hurt itself.
Uproot itself, exactly. So, and that'll be exciting to see, because as the trees do go into decline, some people say, well, why would you want to invest into a large tree? But again, that just gives you that instant result that I think a lot of people, as they walk along here, once the guide wires are off, may not even notice that these are new trees. So, no, I think this is great work that you're doing here, and I appreciate, again, your time with taking it to talk to us today, and looking forward to coming back and seeing more of your work in the future.
My pleasure. I love talking trees, so anytime.
Me too.
Great.
Today's trade tip: mulch, the how-tos and a couple of don'ts when we go and eager to put the mulch down in our garden beds. Mulch has a wonderful function of holding in water, water absorption, cooling, and insulation. However, most people are thinking about putting their mulch down, and we call it volcano mulch. It's just too much. We talked about soil in one of the earlier garden tips, and mulching is a critical part of that for your plant health and success. But you want to stick with about 1 to 2 inches of mulch in application in all your garden beds. And I'm holding this tulip just to kind of show you a little example of soil that's free, airspace flowing through. There's no oxygen deprivation, so don't starve your plants outside by putting too much mulch. Wonderful resource for you is Rutgers Cooperative Extension, your county offices, and some wonderful other university.edu sites to provide you with wonderful fact sheets on the how-tos of mulch and so much more as far as your garden goes. Happy gardening, happy spring.
Hey, I'm Mary Tabbitt. I'm here with Bill Iovino. Iovino, your landscaping businesses?
Iovino's Landscaping.
Okay. We're here today at Hyonis Greenhouses in Branchburg, New Jersey. And I'm here to ask a pro a little bit about your business, and also what should I be doing to prepare for the spring, because it's coming right around the corner.
Yes, can you believe it? Even with all the snow out there, Mayor, we're going to be looking at spring very soon, a couple weeks. So one of the first things that people ask me to do for them in the landscape business is do a spring cleanup. That's what we call the first step to getting your property ready. So if you were to do that yourself, that would be things such as cleaning up all the storm debris through the winter, even some of the leftover stuff from the fall. The leaves, the branches, maybe some broken branches that came down through some of the heavy snowstorms. So that's the first thing you're going to do. We're going to clean up the yard, get it all prepared. Then we're going to go through the beds. We're going to, weed the beds, maybe lightly prune some of the plants that might need to be pruned that are a little unsightly. And then we're going to look at some of the perennials that we left for the winter months. We're going to get those prepared as well, and just prep the beds. One of my recommendations for the beds is to put a pre-emergent in the bed to help prevent any weeds through the season. But one of the natural remedies to do is also mulching. So typically, we can do that as a service during the spring cleanup, but sometimes people like to just wait until the weather really breaks for that. So that's something that I also recommend is, doing mulching that helps to naturally maintain the weeds in the beds. And that also entails, edging and redefining the beds to make them look crisp and neat. And then one of the other things I like to do when we do a spring cleanup, especially if it's a house that has curb lines or sidewalks, is to re-edge all those so everything looks neat and clean. And that's typically how we start the preparation for the season.
I know that, with COVID, people have been doing a lot more greening around their yards, and, just planting and enjoying their backyards a lot more than they did before. So tell me a little bit about what people could do as far as not just the landscaping part, but maybe putting some pavers in, I'm sure you have a lot of clients that have asked you for those things this year.
Yes, last year was a really great year to be creative, and that's what I like to do, is be creative. So it's awesome when you get clients that want to do what we call now the staycation. So, you know, people are spending their money on their homes, and it's a great investment because it's an investment that, one, you can enjoy for years to come, you know, enjoy with your kids and your family, and, you know, you could go on those vacations later on, but that investment in your house is going to be there for years, and when you go to sell the house, you're going to have the value in the house. Some of the things that we've done for clients in the past year is build patios, outdoor kitchens, gazebos, you know, implementing all different elements into the landscape like lighting, music. It's just really fun to do those kind of projects and to see the results at the end of the day. And you know, some people, they give you a blank slate to just create, and when you get those kind of jobs, it's a lot of fun. But it's just a well worthwhile investment, and it's fun to do for us. And I think really the realization of the project at the end of the day that the people get to see is just amazing for them too.
So Bill, I know, you know, when somebody comes to see you or you come to see them, do they have like a budget that they start with so they know, that you can go by? Is that how you usually do it?
Well, you know, some clients, they request, you know, certain services. So first of all, you try to find out what they want, and you know, the key thing to being successful in this business is listening to what customers want. And if you don't listen, you're not gonna hit the mark anytime. So you have to listen to what the customer wants, and you figure it all out there, and then you ask them if they have a budget in mind. And sometimes people's expectations don't meet the budget.
They want the whole backyard for $2,000.
Right, but sometimes when you can paint the picture or give them your vision, they're more inclined to spend the extra money because they see that you are really passionate about what you do, so they know that at the end of the day what they're going to have is a masterpiece.
Do you have like a website where you have some of those pictures so people could start looking and thinking about what they want to do with their backyard?
I do. Actually, it's iovinoslandscaping.com, and we don't have a lot of pictures on it. We need to put more pictures on it of a lot of the work we've done. In fact, we just are working with a new site, so we've done that. If anybody wants to reach me, they could reach me at 732-297-6966, and I'd be more than happy to come out and consult with them.
Awesome. Okay, great. What area are you usually working with? What locations?
So we do mostly Middlesex County, and we'll travel to outside of Middlesex if the job warrants.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. It's a pleasure speaking with you again, and I hope to see you in my backyard one day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary.
Mary here, and we have another question for the pros. What is the best time of the year to prune my boxwoods?
Regarding boxwoods, it's best to prune them in the spring. If you need to touch them up again, you could do so mid to late summer, but I would advise not pruning them into the fall. Pruning causes new growth, and if you have young tender growth, you don't want that to be subjected to any early frost that we might have. So keep your pruning early in the season. If you have a question for a pro, email it to growinggreenaskapro@gmail.com. If your question is selected, you'll receive a Plant Something t-shirt from NJNLA.